what's up everybody, this is Z3 here to finally give you guys the Bardock character analysis I've been promising for such a long time. Uh, Laziness got in the way, but fuck it, I'm with it here. A couple of things before I start though. One, I actually got a special stream going down on Friday. It's gonna be specifically about DBZ. I got some great people coming in, people that I think really know their stuff. People who just aren't, like I said in my rant, who just aren't going on nostalgia alone, really know what they're talking about. So I'll be just devoting a stream just to DBZ on Friday, probably on Friday night. Um, so I want you guys to make it if you guys could. I thought that would be a good time for most of you guys. I hope you guys aren't like going out or anything, because I'd hate for you guys to miss it. And that, is there anything else for me to say? Oh yeah. Trying to think. I guess I could say the new mic that my brother got. I'm borrowing it. I'm borrowing it right now. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Maybe, hopefully I'm not too soft. If you guys could give me some feedback in the comments, that'd be great. Um, I guess I can tell you guys what I'm reading and watching at the moment. Rereading the Yu Yu Hakusho manga right now. Pretty funny, pretty funny. A lot funnier in the manga than it is in the anime, if I must say so myself. Currently rewatching Kenshin. Oh, Kyoto arc. There's gonna be a video for that. It's simply fantastic. But I'll be doing a video for that also. Um, and yeah, I think that's it for now. Let's just get into the character analysis, okay? So first thing you guys need to know about Bardock, okay? He's primarily, well, he's my fourth favorite character in the entire series. Um, he's primarily, unbeknownst to some people, he's actually a Toei creation. He was initially created by Katsuyoshi Nakasuru, who is famous for the Super Saiyan 4 design and Dragon Ball GT. Um, the Toei Animation, they wanted to do a TV special, and they decided to do one on Goku's father, and they were like, okay, let's make this guy saying this guy Bardock. So yeah, he actually started off in the anime in well, actually started off at Toei, and they made the special, and Akira Toriyama was so impressed with the special that he decided to implement Bardock into the manga, thus making him canon. He's famous for only having two panels in the manga. So it's a nice little story for him over there, in that he was primarily an anime creation and then implemented into the manga. I thought that was pretty interesting to share with you guys. But basic stuff. He's famously the father of both Raditz and Goku. One of the more badass characters in the series. His badassness to me is just legendary. Like, this guy is, for me he's on guts level badass. Okay, like he's on that level for me personally. Okay, he's a low class Saiyan warrior, and he's the common soldier, and that's initially how he starts out. Okay, for the 45-minute special that he's a part of, he's met, before I say that, let me talk about the special. If you guys haven't seen my Bardock dub analysis video, you guys can go check that out. I'll probably I'll probably link it in the description of this video. Basically, I compared the English dubs and the Japanese dubs, and I tried to show you how different they were. Of course that's going to come into play here, because they do have different effects on what Bardock is as a character. And I guess I can just start it out right over here. Okay. He initially starts out as a typical Saiyan, concrete planets, just loves to fight pretty much. Like battle is his food and drink basically. But initially though, unlike typical Saiyans, he actually cares for his teammates. For Saiyan squadrons that Frieza, and Frieza, Zarbon, and Dodoria, for those that they create and send out to conquer other planets so that Frieza could sell them and barter and whatnot. The Saiyans on those squadrons or slash teams, they don't usually care for each other. Bardock is different in the sense that he cares for his teammates, and he's actually made a best friend in Tora. Other teammates of a squadron also include Fasha, who famously reminds many people of Videl. Of course, Tora, who is his best friend, which I just said. Borgosh, who was a little fatter, I guess you could say. Sort of has, like, he's balding at the top and has hair on the sides. And Shigesh, who is the fat one with the mustache and the Trunks haircut. And and he also has a scouter. Well, his scouter is featured a little more prominently than the others. So that's his team. And when he's first introduced, right, in the Japanese, he's introduced via the birth of his son, who he's named Kakarot. Um, in the Japanese, he doesn't really care for Kakarot because he has too weak a power level, and that's pretty typical of, like I said, the average Saiyan warrior. Like I said, strength is everything to them. Battle, that's their food and drink, and he doesn't care for Kakarot because famously Goku slash Kakarot has been born with a power level of 2. Doesn't think it'd be worthwhile. Okay. In the English, however, he doesn't think it's worthwhile because not for the fact that Goku is weak, that he has a power level 2. It's the fact that he's going to be sent away anyway, you know. And the English dub sort of gives him that side that he sort of wants that father-son relationship, whereas he doesn't have that in the Japanese version. And I can't really say I do like that in the English dub, but it's sort of disheartening to know that's not how it was in the original Japanese version. Okay. And in the English, like I said, in the English dub, they sort of give him that chance to make that relationship, but he knows like it's not going to work out in the end because they're just going to send him to another planet to conquer anyway. And that sort of gives him like a very sympathetic side to him, that the viewer can feel for. Uh, Another example of this Jap versus English thing for Bardock's character is in respect to Frieza. In the Japanese version, some people believe that the Saiyans were like very uncouth, that they hated working for Frieza. That's actually opposite. That's actually false in the Japanese version. They're very respectful of Frieza. I mean, they always called him Frieza Dono or Frieza Sama. They were very respectful of him, and treated him with kindness and basically and stuff. In the English, they weren't very respectful at all, calling him like a paranoid freak, like a monster. All the corny English dialogue names. A freak, a monster, an idiot, things like that. And Bardock was pretty much like that. He was very respectful of Frieza in the Japanese version, calling him Frieza Sama, whereas in the English dub, he calls him a paranoid freak. So that's something pretty important for his character. Okay. Um, and then of course he gets attacked by the Kanasin, which gives him visions of the future, and eventually at the end of the special he comes to realize that these aren't actually not just visions, but these are actually things that are going to come true in the end, regardless of what he does. At least that's how he feels in the Japanese version. In the English one, he still tries to challenge it, and he does the same in the Japanese, but we'll get to that later. Okay. In terms of his strength in the Japanese power, and this is not something different, but it's something worth noting. The Japanese power, the Japanese subs, um, when he's healing after the attack, that he's done on planet Kanasa, um, it said that his power level is approaching 10K, so 10,000. Whereas in the English, they say that he's about as strong as King Vegeta now, which is a completely ludicrous conclusion that they've come to. Now, whether I like how the English, why the English dub did that, um, yes and no. I say no because it doesn't make sense for a low class Saiyan warrior to be stronger um, than their than their royalty initially, at least until we get to Goku versus Vegeta in the Saiyan saga. But on the other hand, I like it because it sort of foreshadows that later in the series. So that I thought that was it was a 50-50. It was a double-edged sword for me when they did that. Okay. Another thing about Bardock that I like is sort of his similarity to Goku. Like I said, he's just pretty much a badass Goku, a very uncouth badass Goku. The hairstyle, the look, the strength, pretty much, all that was very similar. Um, and one of the most badass things that I love about him, like this is one of my favorite moments, not only in the series but in any form of fiction, is when his teammate is betrayed by Dodoria because Frieza and Zarbon together come to the conclusion that the Saiyans could become very dangerous in the future and become a threat to their power. So when the rest of Bardock's team go to planet Meat and they get killed over there by Dodoria, He sees Tora in his arms. Fosh is dead. Shigesh is dead. Porgas is dead. Um, and Tora's pretty much the only one left alive at that point. And he uses Tora's armband and he soaks it with blood and he puts it around his head. And that is just one of my favorite scenes ever because that is so badass when you think about it. You have the armband. It's like if freaking Mihawk from One Piece took a dying Zoro and soaked it in his blood and just like wrapped it around his head. Oh man, it'd be over. Or no, Zoro should do that. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, but so cool. I love that about him. I mean, and the fight that he has with Dodoria and his team, even though he loses, it's so freaking like badass, just so inspirational and so heroic, of him to do that. Um, I honestly love that moment. So yeah, there's that. And after he finds out about Frieza's betrayal of them trying to kill the Saiyans and whatnot, uh, he starts to differentiate even more from the typical Saiyan in the sense that whereas he cared for his team now, after Dodoria's attack on him, now he's trying to save the entire planet and his race. And the fact that he was given these premonitions and he can't really do anything about it sort of gives the character a very sympathetic side for him. I've always thought that was one of the best parts about his character, just that he knew he was helpless. He knew he really couldn't do anything, and he was still trying to change the future, you know. Um, and we as viewers, I think in the end, we all knew that there was nothing he could do to save himself and his people and his planet. Um, but still, he tries to convince people, at a, I mean, one of the things about the special is that you see the Saiyans like at a bar almost, and it's very weird for Saiyans to be doing that sort of thing. But on the other hand, Toriyama always has always liked like these adding like these little everyday activities into his mangas. So I guess it makes sense at the end. And Bardock, just tries to save his planet and his race, and he just totally becomes like a very atypical Saiyan at that point. Um, And then, of course, realizing he can't do anything, in a frenzy, he then tries to go and change the future by attacking Frieza directly. Now, what's interesting here is that even when he saw his own doom, he knew he was going to die, he went ahead and challenged it anyway. And I think that takes serious guts and balls to try and fight fate, pretty much. And that's really what I love about him, and just makes him all the more badass. But what's interesting here is that when he does die, he has a little monologue that he does before well, actually, before I get to the monologue, if you thought the fight against Midoriya and his men was badass, I mean, the way he takes out Frieza's soldiers is just, oh man, that's just on another level. He just like literally is like cutting through the ranks, and I love that scene. Um, and that eventually leads to the monologue that he has against Frieza, because Frieza thinks he has to take it into his own hands, to to not only take care of Bardock, but he thinks that it's the opportune moment to get rid of the entire planet and its inhabitants. Um, and before he does this, Bardock gives him a little speech saying that what's interesting here is that his death is that he speaks for the entire Saiyan race, um, despite the Saiyan race respecting Frieza. I always thought that was a little weird, especially because I watched it in Japanese also, as well as English. But on the other hand, you also have to consider the fact that Bardock knew about Frieza's betrayals. So I guess that sort of justifies his little speech at the end. Okay, and you know, at the end of the day, Frieza's supernova attack eventually succumbs to Bardock's badass pose with the spirit cannon, as it's called, as it's dubbed in some games. Um, it eventually, sorry, it doesn't succumb. It overwhelms it. Overwhelms most of Frieza's soldiers, Bardock himself, and the entire planet and Saiyan race, and kills them all. Um, in death, however, it's his little death. It's his death that's separate in the English and Jap that in English and Japanese that sort of separates him a little bit from the other Saiyans. In the English dub, sorry, he regrets not being able to be a good father for Goku and like not actually being able to hold him in his hands and stuff. Whereas in the Japanese dub, he just sees Goku as an avenger for the race, and he just takes pride in the fact that Goku, or aka Kakarot in this case, is going to be the one that avenges him and the Saiyan race. So in the Japanese, there's no like father son sort of relationship trying to that he's trying to instigate over there, whereas in the English dub he is. Um, and I'm not sure which version I like more, but I like the fact that that the English dub at least tried to do something like that. And on the other hand, I'm equally pleased with how they handled uh, Bardock just being straight to the point, badass, not really a very family sort of figure. And like I said, that's pretty much my character analysis. My fourth favorite character in this series for sure. Uh, I guess before I end it, I can go into the episode of Bardock thing. If you guys don't know, episode of Bardock was a 30-minute, I guess, TV special, if that's what you want to call it, released on Ultimate Tenkaichi, which shows that Bardock eventually he didn't die during the original special and was instead sent back in time to the primitive time of Planet Vegeta when it was called Planet Plant, if I'm not mistaken. And it shows him over there being a very helpful person, even though he didn't really mean for it to be helpful. Um, and in return for saving those peace-loving people at that point, he eventually makes friends with someone called Barry, and he initially comes to care for Barry and some of the other people. And through this, and through who we see as later Frieza's ancestor, Chilled, who eventually comes and terrorizes the planet, uh, Bardock eventually becomes a Super Saiyan. Okay, now at this point, I'm okay. Or I'm okay. Bardock became a Super Saiyan because that's something fans have been clamoring for a long time, and I'm of course I'm glad that it happened. Um, but the whole plot line behind that entire freaking episode of Bardock thing, I don't want that. Like that's stupid. Him not dying and going back in time, that's fucking retarded. I don't want that shit. Um, I guess what it did for his character is that he finally became even differentiated more from the atypical Saiyan because now he comes to care for another species instead of just the Saiyans, and Saiyans have been regularly known to eradicate almost all the species that they've encountered. So that's pretty much the only thing it adds to his character and him becoming a Super Saiyan. Of course, and he can of course transform into a Great Ape under the full moon. Um, I will say though the last scene for the episode of Bardock that was pretty cool. Him walking into the sunset like a little cowboy and shit. I digged it. I digged it. It was okay. But like I said, I think it's better that he died at the end of the original special rather than the stupid episode of Bardock thing. Though I am glad with the final scene and Super Saiyan Bardock. So that's that. And yeah, I think I've covered everything I could about the character. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's my Bardock character analysis. Promised you guys hit for a long time, and finally came. So thank you guys for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Any questions, comments, whatever thoughts, just post in the comments below, and I'll do my best to reply to you guys. And peace. Later, guys.